Nigeria has been a big oil producer for decades now, but very little of that oil has been refined. So you have this absurd position where Nigeria pumps oil, sells it abroad, and then re-imports it in the refined products that it needs.
Oil was recently discovered in the East. Nigerians are developing their industry with their own research methods and their own hands.
Shell and BP found oil in Nigeria in 1956, 4 years before Nigeria got independence from Britain.
There was huge hope for Nigeria then, a country of 45 million people.
What if I told you that right now, in the heart of Nigeria, there is a battle raging that could change the fate of an entire continent? A battle where one man stands against a very powerful cartel, risking billions of dollars to break a curse that has gripped Africa for generations and kept it in a cycle of poverty and dependency. Now, this is not fiction. It is a real story. It's a true story that is in development, and it's a story about power, money, and the destiny of an entire country. But first, let's get some context.
The government owns 4 refineries, but despite billions of dollars in investment over the years, they've just never been able to refine petroleum products.
For years now, Nigeria has not been able to meet its OPEC quota.
Those problems, as far as the government refineries are concerned, have never gone. They have even increased. So if you have a problem like that, and that problem is not removed, then you aren't going anywhere.
Then came the savior, the richest businessman in Nigeria.
When you import things into your country, you are importing poverty, exporting jobs out. So we have to stop it.
Dangote decided to take on the challenge. So he's building the biggest single train refinery in the world.
You know, to make money, you need to actually solve a problem. Nigeria had this problem.
So Aliko Dangote is Nigeria's richest businessman.
Nigeria's foremost industrialist.
He made his fortune on producing simple things.
He's a pioneer in the cement manufacturing industry.
And now he's moved into refining oil.
So he constructed the biggest single train refinery in the whole world in Lagos, Nigeria, in order to liberate his people from what nobody understands. So he took the risk and put in 20 billion US dollars. After building this very beautiful high capacity refinery, he started having problems.
I knew that there would be a fight, but I didn't know that, the mafia in oil, they are stronger than mafia in drugs.
Dangote has been at odds with the NNPC, short for the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation. He says they haven't delivered all the crude they were supposed to, and their stake in the project has now been watered down to 7.2%.
They say there is an African proverb that says, when bad luck meets you, even a ripe banana can remove your teeth. This refinery is everything that Nigerians could ask for. But then in the midst of corruption, mafia, and many other things, this refinery is just a yard of pipes. At one moment, Dangote almost gave up.
He has mused openly about walking away from this 20 billion refinery. But we've spoken to people in his camp who say this was just him letting out his frustration, and that should not be taken too seriously.
If those who are selling or supplying refined products for Nigeria feel that they will lose the lucrative opportunity, they will also make every effort to get them frustrated.
A lot of people who have been making a very good living based on the kind of pickings from this trade, theoretically, much of that could disappear. So clearly there's going to be a whole class of people who do not want this to succeed.
Now, if you compare the different mandates, that's the mandate of the former president, President Buhari, and the President Tinubu, you discover that the support that is given to Dangote has a very stark difference. The difference is clear, like day and night. During Buhari's reign, the NNPC, which is actually the oil or the petroleum regulatory body in Nigeria, actually promised to have a 20% stake in the Dangote refinery. Now, this was seen as by the public and even the Dangote refinery as the government throwing its heavyweight support behind the refinery. When Tinubu took over,
the fresh subsidy is gone.
We started hearing statements from the NNPC like the oil that comes out or the product that comes out from the Dangote refinery are of low quality compared to products that are imported. Can you imagine that? That sounds fishy. Who in Nigeria, considering the position, considering the level of investment, the $20 billion investment, can actually make such a statement without heavy backing? I mean, when I'm saying making such a statement without heavy backing, without backing in the sense that no scientific tests were actually carried out for this kind of statements to be made in public. And we all know that the head of the NNPC reports to the President of the Republic. So these are actually the views of the President of the Republic, who is no other person but Tinubu. And all these allegations never stopped there. They went forward to sabotage the refinery even more. Now, I want us to be a little bit in context. When we look at superpowers like the US, Britain, China, and all the other countries, whenever they want to sanction a country, what do? They target the business people in those countries. For example, take Russia, for example. The recent US sanctions, what did they do? They actually sanctioned the big business elites, the financial elites of Russia. And when you target the financial elites of such countries, it actually implies that you are actually targeting their businesses. You are actually targeting that country, because if their businesses are harmed, it means that many people that work on them are going to lose employment, and the government is also going to have a decrease in the amount of tax and other benefits that any other company or any other business gives to the country. Now, look at it this way. If the Nigerian government, that is the president of Nigeria himself, is actually sabotaging Dangote, who is the biggest problem solver on the continent, the biggest problem solver in Nigeria. When I talk about biggest problem solver, it actually means the biggest businessman, because when you do business, you actually solve problems. When you want to have money, you must solve problems in order to have money. So if you target the biggest problem solver of your country, it means that you are sanctioning your own country. It means that you are being unpatriotic. Now, this is everything being equal. Dangote has not been, no charges have been put on Dangote as if he's a criminal. He's a businessman, he's doing business. So everything being equal, Tinubu is actually sanctioning his own country, Nigeria. He's being very unpatriotic. Now, as if that is not enough, the head of the NNPC still made another claim that the construction of the Dangote refinery does not align with the goals of the government. Whatever those goals are, please let me know in the comments. I don't know whatever the goals of the Tinubu administration are. Let us know in the comments below. What do you think those goals are? How can a refinery like this, the biggest single train refinery in the whole world, constructed in Nigeria that is rich in crude, how can they construct this kind of refinery in Nigeria? And the president, or let me say, yes, I can say the president because he has not actually come out to counteract the speech that the head of the NNPC gave. Then why in an era where Africans are actually angry that most of their raw materials are actually shipped out of the continent without any value being added on them, and the administration of a president comes up and say that a refinery that is meant to add value to crude before it is shipped is not within their strategic goals? Nah, this is the kind of sabotage I always see in films, in Hollywood films, Nollywood films, Bollywood films. I never knew it's going to be acted like this. And this is actually what is actually going on in most African countries. So you find an African country that is very rich in mineral, that should do everything to add value on its raw materials before export. They are doing the exact opposite thing. And now when protests came out, the president came up with so many resolutions, and I was actually waiting that the president should give a resolution that is going to solve this problem. But to the best of my knowledge, he gave just cosmetic solutions. He read 11 points, and one of those points was removing the office of the first lady. Like something that is that something? Nigeria is a very big country. Removing the office of the first lady, is that something that you think that we'll be rejoicing over? Removing the office of the first lady, what economic impact is it going to have on the common person? A refinery like the Dangote refinery, $20 billion refinery, biggest single train refinery in the whole world. In your country, you haven't taken any serious measure to actually raise that company to stand on its feet. You are telling us about removing the office of the first lady. Those are cosmetic things. The president of Nigeria, Mr. Tinubu, what he has to do is he has to look into the diagnostic problem, not doing symptomatic treatment, because that is actually symptomatic, treating something in a symptomatic way, looking at the symptoms and actually giving drugs to treat symptoms. It is not even enough to treat the symptoms because the protest is still ongoing. People are not stupid. So the president of Nigeria, Mr. Tinubu, is angry because of two things. The first thing is Dangote did not support him during the elections. And so that hatred, that seek for revenge led to the second one, that is to fight Dangote, because everything that he is doing actually is to fight Dangote. If you are actually refusing to give him crude oil to serve his refinery, it means that you are fighting him. If you are sabotaging his refinery, it means you are fighting him. If you are constantly putting out messages through your different channels, the NNPC and all other things, that his products are inferior to imported products, which is actually the contrary. Dangote has actually called MPs and also experts, and they've done live tests that shows actually the contrary, that products that come out from the Dangote refinery are far more superior to the products that are imported. Now, talking about imports, let's really talk about imports. Now, the policy that the Nigerian administration is actually bringing up, that is Tinubu's administration is bringing up, is that they want to encourage imports and discourage local production. We have seen that. We have all the evidence and all the mechanisms to acquire this aim. Now, why is Tinubu encouraging imports? Now, people started asking these questions when they saw all this analysis. They saw everything clear, that he's moving towards discouraging production, local production, and encouraging imports, which is actually the most dangerous thing an African president should do in this era. In this era where we talk about adding value to raw materials before exporting. So, it came to the knowledge of many investigators that Tinubu has a refinery in Europe, in Malta to be precise, and that refinery is headed by his son. Now, let us not go too fast. We should all recall that Nigeria has had a long dispute of some oil fields with European oil giants Eni and Shell.
So a European oil company sells its business to Tinubu's nephew. The nephew's company benefits, and Nigeria drops litigation against the European soon after. What does that sound like to you? Allegations of nepotism and corruption are hounding the president. But that's not all. He's also been accused of using his office for personal gain, using it to fund a luxurious lifestyle.
There were corruption allegations on the acquisition of certain oil fields in Nigeria. When Tinubu took power, what did he do? He dropped all allegations against these companies and asked that the matter should be settled amicably. Now, after doing all this, we learned months later that he is now the owner of an oil refinery in Malta. This oil refinery belonged to one of these companies. Now, whatever negotiations they did before he dropped all charges, we don't know yet. That is still left for him and God to judge. These are the kind of leaders that we have. Now, Dangote is a businessman, knowing fully that he is in front of a very powerful cartel, a very, very powerful cartel. He had to take measures. Now, he had to meet one guy. I'm going to reveal the name to you. This guy is a very powerful guy. He is a Nigerian, though he is Libyan somehow, born in Nigeria. There are some people here that just come to the comment section and say, hey, Dangote did not do his business planning very well. Nigeria clearly had a need. Somebody who is the richest black man on earth, the biggest businessman in Africa, a businessman who has more than 30 different businesses in different African countries, who run all these companies successfully and is actually growing as fast as we cannot even imagine. You are actually saying things about this guy, that this guy did not write his business plan very well. What are you saying? It's just like comparing a primary school child with a PhD student. Dangote is at that level. Yes, he's at that level. He has seen it all. So he knows exactly what he's doing. So what did Dangote do when he observed this situation? The picture was very clear in his mind. What did he do? He met this guy, Shibe Shagwe. Now, Shibe Shagwe is a very powerful man. It's not like your ordinary Nigerian. He's a very, very powerful man. But then, he has a very dark past. Shibe Shagwe has a very dark past. During the period of Abacha, he was actually caught in money laundering activities, and he was sued by the Swiss government. At that time, he paid a fine of about 1 million Swiss francs. That's a very huge money if you have to convert it into this money. And he was ordered to deposit a sum of $66 million. Yes, that is how big the issue was. So Gilbert Chagoury is very close to President Tinubu and can get anything. I'm telling you, he can get anything that he wants to get from Tinubu. He supported Tinubu in his election and all that. Now, just an instance, during the installation or the inauguration of President Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa, it was noticed, many people noticed that Tinubu actually traveled to South Africa using Gilbert Chagoury's private jet. Now, this is just to tell you how close they are. And recently, Gilbert Chagoury wants a contract of 11 billion US dollars. That is one of the biggest projects going on in Nigeria. If I'm not talking about that, is keeping Dangote project out of this. It's one of the biggest projects going on in Nigeria. He actually awarded this contract to Gilbert Chagoury, 11 billion US dollars. That is the construction of the Lagos-Calabar highway, which is actually the biggest highway in Nigeria right now, the biggest construction project in Nigeria right now. So this guy, Dangote, had to meet this guy and actually discuss with this guy and made things a little bit softer for Dangote, because Dangote was just seeing a rock in front of him. At one moment, Dangote almost gave up. He almost left the project, that no, this is more than him. He even said that if knew the amount of mafia that was in this mafia, because you are trying to do good, but the country itself, the president itself, the person who has to instead make this country work, is instead fighting against you. So Dangote met him. You remember at that time when they said the NNPC can now sell oil to Dangote, can sell crude oil to Dangote in Naira. Do you remember that time? Yes, that was the time where Gilbert Chagoury intervened, and things were, everybody was happy. Everybody was really happy that, hey, Dangote has won this thing. But then, that was still a cosmetic solution. Yeah, let me tell you how. The detail of that negotiation was that the NNPC was going to sell 26% of the capacity of the Dangote refinery. This actually means that 74% of what Dangote needs still need to be sourced elsewhere. And in what currency? In dollar. Where is Dangote going to take the dollars to buy 76% of its capacity per day? Where is he going to take it? Dangote is a Pan-African entrepreneur. He has invested in different African countries. He uses the local currency to actually produce and sell. Where is he going to take that amount of money? So it comes down again to this anti-patriotic character of President Tinubu, who is actually, he's giving a sedative to the richest African, the richest businessman in Africa. Now, taking into consideration that Dangote constructed his refinery with 20 billion US dollars, and that Dangote's net worth is $12 billion, Dangote used all what he has to actually construct this refinery. Now, I'm a witness. I'm not far from my office here in Cameroon. There is a Dangote project going on there, but this project was halted when Dangote was really badly in need of money to construct that refinery. I'm talking about Cameroon right now, and that is in Nigeria. What we're talking about was happening in Nigeria, but this is a very clear case, an example that I want to give you. When Dangote was actually in crisis, when he needed money to actually complete this refinery, the project that I'm talking about was halted, and it was halted because he had to finish this refinery. Now, if the president is actually giving him just 26% of what he needs, where is he going to have 74%? This is just a simple formula to kill the guy down. Because if he doesn't work in full capacity, he will not be able to make profits and also pay back his loans. And if the interest on his loans are very high, you know what happens? He might lose the refinery. And that is a small handbook of how to bring down his business. If you do not know about a handbook on how to bring down Dangote, that is the handbook. So if the president actually continues like this is the narrative we are going to remember. This is the narrative all of us are going to remember, because that is what is actually going on in Nigeria right now. Now, what do Dangote actually want? Because we have talking all this, we have not even said what Dangote wants. Dangote wants imports to actually be stopped. Imports of finished products. the products that he can produce, he wants that they should stop these imports. Of course, it makes sense. Why? Because not only sometimes we are really naive. All across the world, all superpowers, all big countries that actually do manufacturing and whatever, they usually have reforms. They usually have certain parts in their economy where they actually restrict imports of certain things. For example, let's take China. China, if you are actually exporting something into China that is technology, whatever, there is a high tariff that is put on it. The US puts high tariffs on cars. Go to Brazil. Brazil puts high tariffs on maize. Brazil put high tariffs on imports of maize. Now, what is our competitive advantage? Where do we have advantage? Now, look at Nigeria. Where Nigeria actually has advantage is the oil that Nigeria has. Nigeria should simply not, they can decide not to ban the import of finished products, but they can put high tariffs on the import of products that are produced in Nigeria. And when we talk about products that are produced in Nigeria, look at this refinery, a $20 billion investment, a $20 billion investment. They can put tariffs on the imports of oil. And that is going to solve a lot of problems. What is the other thing that Dangote wants? Dangote wants that crude oil should be sold to him in Naira, which actually makes sense. It doesn't really make sense for a company in Nigeria to buy products from another company in Nigeria in dollars. Meanwhile, the country, Nigeria, has a currency. What is wrong with us? At this point in time, why should a transaction that is occurring in Lagos be transacted in New York? You need to pay in dollars what you consume in Nigeria. How can the business flow? So these are the things that Dangote wants. Another thing that Dangote wants is crude. He has a refinery, but they have refused to give him crude. He wants crude. He wants that crude to be supplied to him. This is one of the things that was actually refused to him when Tinubu came to power. They refused to sell Dangote crude. Dangote had to seek crude from Brazil and the US. Does that even make sense? Meanwhile, Nigeria has crude. Is that really normal? So these are the things that Dangote actually wants. They're not giving it to him. So the question we should all answer, if the Dangote refinery succeeds, what is the fate of industrialization in Africa? Is it going to spread across Africa? Is this ideology, is this fight going to spread across all minerals that we have on the continent? Is it going to inspire other entrepreneurs to become Afropreneurs? If African countries continue to export raw materials and import finished products, are we ever going to break free from economic colonialism? Let me know in the comment section below. If the Dangote refinery succeeds, imagine waking up in Nigeria and not having any shortage of fuel. Picture an Africa where our natural resources fuel our economic growth. That's the future Dangote is fighting against all odds. But here's the thing, Dangote can't do it alone. This battle of Africa's energy independence is the one we all have a stake in. It's about breaking free from the chains of the past and seizing our own destiny. So the next time you fuel your car or switch on your lights, you should remember you are part of this whole story. The leaders we support, the values we uphold, they all shape the Africa we will leave for our children. This is all I have for you today. Don't forget to like, subscribe. I also want to seize this opportunity to thank all our members who are supporting us to make us bring out content like this to you. Thank you once more. See you in my next video. Ciao. So until Nigeria figures out a way to solve these problems, this thing is still going to be a curse.